And welcome to part 4 of Midway on Let's Play Battlefield 1942. I did tell you that this was a slow-paced map, and it can go on for a long time. The reason that it's unique in that is that you've actually got ticket bleed on this map. This is probably the longest duration map with ticket bleed. By that I mean ticket bleed where you just get a majority and you bleed as opposed to bleeding the other side by getting all the flags. So that slow nature, the fact that there's usually not that much kills, not that much action, especially if only one side holds a land flag, that's really what makes people hate this map with a passion. A lot of people just think it's way too boring, and although it may not kill the server the way Kubra Dam did in Battlefield 2, it's pretty close. I thought I saw an infantry back here. Well, I guess not. The Americans are now using one of their battleships, maybe it's a destroyer, I guess we'll see, to assault the airfield. That's a good strategy. If you don't have any of the land flags, you need to bring up your ships and start at least having people spawn in and bring their landing craft to assault the beach. Knocked down a plane there. The battleship's cannons, if they're properly aimed, and you may even have someone who's a sniper help you out on that, because the artillery on this game for vehicles works together with the sniper. They can pull an artillery and kind of aim it. Very few people actually do that, but it can be done. But anyways, if you aim it just properly, you can do a ton of damage on aircraft that try to take off, and just generally soften up the target for your invading infantry. Now, it's not exactly a good idea what I'm doing here by taking a tank out, and I actually got killed by an airplane, which shows you that can happen at any time. But what I was going to say was that the enemy ship is going to see you as a really juicy target, and they're going to aim right in on you and knock you out if you're within the sight of the ship. Unfortunately, I lost that tank when the Americans had taken the coastal defense flag, so if I don't get over there quickly enough, then that tank's going to respawn in there and they're going to have a good advantage, and they may be able to take the airfield with it. Now basically their entire team up. There we go. Tank just managed to spawn in, so it wasn't quite as bad the timing for me as it was for them when I drove over there with the Jeep earlier, but basically their whole team is going to be spawning here in a coastal defenses flag. So what I'm going to have to do is sneak along. You can just swim across the river. It's actually not that big of a deal. I guess that target was too tempting for me to pass up. But basically you can swim in there from out of sight, and you probably won't be able to neutralize the flag because the capture radius is up there with the little concrete bunker. But if you get over there and you kind of stay out of sight, swim underneath the bridge, you can be in a good position to take on their infantry one at a time. This here is a good example of, you don't have a spawn point on the mainland. Well, I guess they just got the airfield, but they didn't when I was spawning in. Anyways, if you don't have a spawn point there, you just spawn at the nearest ship, take a landing craft. Looks like both our aircraft carrier and our battleship are parked right outside the coastal defenses flag, so we're going to have a lot of infantry helping me out. Alright, so at this point I may as well mention kind of overall what's happened with this map. The Americans lost this map simply because they were not able to keep a foothold on the island, at least not for very long. And they weren't able to counterbalance that with good naval supremacy, the naval flags. Part of that, of course, is when I went around with the airplanes capturing those flags. The other part is just, it's, if you don't have people spawning in at the island, they're going to be spawning in. They're going to be strongly tempted to spawn in at their aircraft carrier and do plane camping, because they figured the only way they're going to get lots of points and lots of kills is to just get an airplane, get it from the carrier, and bomb enemies with it. It's also really difficult to coordinate good teamwork with the ships. Very, very few people know how to use them effectively. I never learned how to. That was one aspect of this game that I really never got into, was learning how to use the ships effectively. Ship versus ship, I mean, like say you've got a battleship, you're going up against an enemy battleship. Never really learned how to do that because it all relies on teamwork. You need people repairing the ship while you're firing the cannons. Well, that'll do it for the Battle of Midway on Let's Play Battlefield 1942. I wouldn't say this was a bad round. This is probably a good round as far as Midway rounds go. There was at least a lot of action on the islands, even if the Americans weren't able to secure the island very often. There was at least a lot of conflict there, a lot of stuff going on, so it wasn't as boring as your average Midway round, probably. So I'll see you on the next episode.